Iran's reaction to the American assault was one of anger and defiance. The country's representative to the United Nations, Amir Saeed Iravani, described the attack as an act of war under a fabricated and absurd pretext. He called the U.S. strikes a flagrant breach of international law and declared that Iran reserves its full right to respond proportionately to this aggression. Inside Iran, Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei is now facing immense pressure from hardliners to retaliate forcefully. The leadership in Tehran is carefully debating its next steps, balancing the need to appear strong with the critical concern for the survival of the regime itself. The first signs of retaliation came quickly. On Monday, June 23, just a day after the strikes, Iran launched a missile toward Israel. Fortunately, Israeli air defense systems successfully intercepted the missile before it could cause any harm. This act, however, signals Iran's willingness to widen the conflict beyond its own borders. In another move, Iranian lawmakers began publicly calling for the country to withdraw from the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, or NPT. If Iran were to leave this international agreement, it would be a clear signal to the world that it no longer feels bound by any restrictions and may pursue a nuclear weapon openly. There is significant concern about the potential for economic disruption as well. Unconfirmed rumors are circulating that Iran might attempt to close the Strait of Hormuz. This narrow waterway is one of the most important shipping lanes in the world, especially for oil tankers. A huge portion of the world's oil supply passes through it every day. Any disruption to this route would cause global oil prices to skyrocket and could have a severe impact on the world economy. The threat alone has already made markets nervous, demonstrating how this regional conflict can have immediate and far-reaching global consequences. Meanwhile, questions remain about the status of Iran's nuclear material. A senior Iranian source told reporters that most of the country's highly enriched uranium had been moved from the Fordo facility before the U.S. attack. This raises the critical question of whether Iran still possesses enough material and technical knowledge to build a crude nuclear device, even after the damage to its main facilities. The uncertainty surrounding Iran's remaining capabilities is a major source of anxiety for intelligence agencies and governments around the world, as the answer will heavily influence what happens next. While the primary targets were military and nuclear sites, the conflict has already had a direct impact on civilians. In Isfahan province, reports emerged that an Israeli drone strike, conducted in the aftermath of the main U.S. operation, killed 3 civilians near a hospital. This highlights the tragic reality that even in so-called precision strikes, innocent people are often at risk. On the military side, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC, reported that 9 of its personnel were killed in a separate strike in Yazd province. These casualties, both civilian and military, represent the immediate human cost of this sudden escalation in hostilities. The crisis has also led to a spike in economic anxiety, felt far beyond the Middle East. Immediately following the news of the attack, global oil prices jumped by approximately 10%. The price of Brent crude, a key international benchmark for oil, briefly rose above $80 per barrel for the first time since January 2025. This increase reflects market fears that a wider conflict could disrupt oil supplies from the region. If Iran follows through on threats to close the Strait of Hormuz, experts warn that oil prices could surge towards $100 per barrel, which would have a significant negative impact on global economic growth and inflation. As a result of the direct threats, daily life has been disrupted, particularly in Israel. Following Iran's retaliatory missile launch, the Israeli government imposed restrictions on public gatherings in certain areas as a safety precaution. It also temporarily limited flights at Ben Gurion Airport, the country's main international gateway, due to the ongoing missile threat. These measures show how the conflict is affecting ordinary people, creating a climate of fear and uncertainty and forcing governments to take defensive actions to protect their populations from potential harm. Looking ahead, the path forward is dangerously unclear. The key question is whether this series of strikes will lead to a full-scale war between the United States, Israel, and Iran. Will Iran launch a larger, more devastating attack in response? Or will diplomatic channels urged by the UN and other world powers manage to de-escalate the situation before it spirals further out of control? The actions taken by leaders in Washington, Tehran, and Jerusalem in the coming days and weeks will be critical in determining whether the region can step back from the brink of a catastrophic conflict.